Hello again, fellow YouTubers, Solomon Pleasant back with another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile, and today we have Honey Nut Glendios. So get out your Honey Nut Glendios cereal and let's get right into Worldo! I am terrible, and I know it. So, this is our Star-Vader Omega Glendios build with strides, so we'll be sure to show that when we get to that. First off, though, we'll talk about your starter. One of the key ingredients to making this deck work, and that is Star-Vader World Line Dragon. He has the ability from on Vanguard and in the Soul to choose one card with reverse in its name from your hand and discard it, and at the beginning of the ride phase, if you have a Link Joker Vanguard and your Vanguard is not at grade 3 or greater, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search for up to one Link Joker among them, reveal it to your opponent, and then put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Without this, the deck would be far more inconsistent than it actually is. This thing right here keeps you from getting screwed over. Now, is that 100% guarantee? No. But it is the key ingredient to making sure that the deck stays relatively consistent, so that you don't have to G-assist like a lot of people do. And also, G-assisting kind of gets rid of your deck, which in this deck you really don't want to do that, which is why you don't really want to G-assist. You bank it on this guy. This is your guy you bank it on. For our triggers, we have 4 Star-Vader Scouting Fenris, draw. 4 Star-Vader Jail Tail, which is also a draw. 4 Star-Vader Nebula Captor, which is also a draw. And then 4 heals. Essentially, this is a deck where you draw a ton of cards, and that's all you do. You get enough cards in your hand to pretty much protect yourself. I was originally running some 10k garters in there just to have some protection, but I figured that draw is a little bit more effective because it gives me more cards and cycles through my deck faster, which I kind of need in order for this thing to work. So that is why I have that. Now, to our grade 1s. I run 3 Engraving Star-Vader. How do I say that? Engraving Star-Vader Phasodium. I think that's how you say it. He is a 6k with the ability of, when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Link Joker Vanguard, for each different rearguard with reverse in its name, choose one card from the damage zone and turn it face up. This guy is useful more for the times when I can't really stride for game. He's more for the long game when Omega can only lock down 2 units at a time, and I have to keep my damage somewhat unflipped. He's there to make sure that your damage doesn't stop once you flipped over all 5 damage. He's there to kind of keep it going so that you can keep the lock going, so that you can essentially get what you're supposed to do when this deck finally goes off. I run 3 Star-Vader Ruin Magician. Now, World Line can easily cut through your deck. So, Ruin Magician's ability, and what she provides for the deck, is a Counterblast 1 when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you have a Link Joker Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from your drop zone with reverse in its name, and for each different rear guard with reverse in its name, put it into your hand. So, essentially, since you keep dropping rearguards for Omega's ability, and you keep placing rearguards for Omega's ability, Ruin Magician's here to get those reverse units back so you can keep using them over and over and over again. Again, key player. She's a 7k, which is a little bit better, but again, attacks aren't really... Power doesn't mean anything in this deck. There is no reason... There is no real need for power or any sort of stats that way. And finally, I run 3 Star-Vader... Oh wait, Taboo Star-Vader Rubidium. This is a special card. And as you'll notice, I run no perfect guards. Here's why. Taboo Star-Vader has the auto skill of retire this unit when this unit is placed on the Guardian Zone. If you have a Vanguard with Star-Vader Omega Glendios, if you have a Star-Vader, specifically Star-Vader Omega Glendios, as your Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your rearguards with reverse in its name, and the unit that is being attacked during that battle changes to that unit. And all your Guardians guard that specific unit. This is what we call a reverse polarity guard. What she does is I place her on the guard, is essentially for when I'm at 5 damage, and I do not want to risk taking that possible 6th or 7th damage. I don't want to risk that. So what do? Oh hey, I have reverse rear guards. Omega's getting attacked. Guess what, Vanguard, who is the only thing attacking because I locked down everything else, you're attacking a rear guard now, meaning I don't have a guard, meaning you cannot kill me. That is Taboo Star-Vader's ability. It is very impressive, and essentially considering if you don't have Omega as Vanguard anyway, you're pretty screwed already. I see no reason to run perfect guards because this suffices just as well. So I run 3 of her. Now for grade 2s, I run 3 Star-Vader Cold Death Dragon. This is one of your units to get around resist, and also it's just helpful for keeping the locking going and to make it go faster. What Cold Death does is a auto counterblast 1 when this unit is placed on rearguard. If you have a Link Joker Vanguard and your opponent has a locked card, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards and puts it at the top, one of his or her rearguards, and put the top card of his or her deck onto that rearguard face down as a locked card. So essentially what this thing does is, hey, you have a rearguard. Guess what? It's locked now as a different card. So essentially it's not me locking that card, which helps get around resist. It's an 8K, which is perfectly fair, so that when it's played in other decks, it hurts them more than it helps them, but in this deck especially, it helps get that lock off faster. And for my only other grade 2 units, I run 3 Star-Vader Magnet Hollows. Magnet Hollow is that unit you ride as Vanguard because you don't want to ride Cold Death. He has the Vanguard and Rearguard ability of Counterblast 1. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a Vanguard with Star-Vader in its name, you pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 card with a reverse in its name, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is there to help you get that extra reverse unit. It's pretty much there to give you that little extra point you need, and also because it's good to ride that as opposed to Cold Death. Now, the reason I don't run mainly grade 2s is because once you hit grade 3, they have, besides Cold Death, the other guy has no purpose. So that's why you don't run any other grade 2s. And also because you need room for these guys. Running at a whopping... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. Running at a whopping 15, I run every possible reverse unit in existence. One of each, because I'm that much of a diehard for Omega. And yes, even the Rebirth. All 15. There's all of them. Because this deck needs grade 3s, because this deck is a Morikawa deck. There's really nothing special about these reverses aside from the fact that they're reverses and they're the whole key to the deck. Although I will say Reverse Cradle is something interesting that for people who aren't as traditional as me, you would run 4 of this guy, and then just other reverses that you like. That's essentially what people do, because this guy's actually okay. He has the limit break ability of when a reverse unit is placed on rearguard, choose up to one of your opponent's rearguards to lock it, and this unit gets +5 until the end of the turn. It can only be used once, but hey, that's okay. And all your rearguards with reverse are counted as Link Jokers, so there's that. So he's okay to have, but honestly, you're here for the big guy of the deck. You're not here for these reverses. You're here for the main man. I run 3 Star-Vader Omega Glendios. Why 3? Because essentially after you get the 1, the others become unnecessary, so there's no real need to run 4, except if you want a more guarantee that you'll get him. Granted, running 3 is a little risky, but I'm okay with doing that because, honestly, I only have 3 and I'm not going to be begging for more because I like the deck the way it functions with 3. Now, for those who have been under a rock for your entire life and have no idea what Star-Vader Omega Glendios does, let me read off his abilities. First, he has the continuous ability of all your rearguards with reverse in their name are also Link Joker, and during your turn, get plus 4,000. So all those 11Ks right there are actually 15K swingers if they want to be. Also, key note, this unit does not have the Lord ability like almost every other unit in the game that was at that moment, so very interesting. He has the auto ability of when your unit with reverse is placed on rearguard, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, lock it, and this ability cannot be used for the rest of the turn, so you can use it once. He has the Limit Break 4 ability of Counterblast 1, choose a card with reverse in its name, and discard it, and all your opponent's locked units cannot be unlocked during his or her next end phase, which is what we call the Omega Lock. So, basically, Omega is a deck that focuses on stalling your opponent so that you can get to 5 damage and activate his ultimate break. Which is, at the beginning of your main phase, if the number of locked cards your opponent has is 5 or more, you win the game. You win. That's it. You win. Bless this deck. Bless it. It is unique in that it is the only deck that I know of that focuses on something other than dealing damage to the opponent to win. Essentially, almost every card fight deck focuses on getting the opponent to 6 damage. There can be 1 or 2 decks that I can think of where they can stall you out long enough so that you run out of cards and you lose that way. But this is the deck everyone thinks of when it comes to winning by any other means besides 6 damage. And I respect it for that, because that's taking some uniqueness that Cardfight didn't have originally. Originally, Cardfight varied itself in how you played the game, but didn't vary itself on how you win the game. Which is something that a lot of other card games tried to vary out first, in that, hey, you can win in different ways, but they all had the same method for winning different ways. If that makes any sense. It doesn't. It really doesn't. What am I saying? Anyway, so there's that. And now for the Stride deck. Yes, Omega has strides. I run 4 Death Star-Vader Omega Loop Glendios. The Stride of this deck. The only Stride of this deck. If you want to run more, I don't know why, because there's not entirely a reason to. This helps the deck so much. It has a act ability once per turn of Counterblast 2, choose a face-down copy of this card, Death Star-Vader Omega Loop Glendios, and turn it face up in the G-Zone. And if you have a heart card with Glendios in its name, for each rearguard with reverse in its name, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards and puts the top card of his or her deck face down on that rearguard as a locked card. Then, if the number of damage you have is 5 or more, which I don't know how it's possible to have more than 5 and still be alive, all your opponent's lock cards cannot be unlocked during his or her next end phase. Essentially, this is here to seal the game. It's here to finish the game. And if you have the Taboo Star-Vader in your hand, you don't even need to attack with this guy. Because this would be assuming that you have at least 1 reverse unit, and there's no way they can possibly kill you with just the Vanguard. There's no way. The only clan I can think of that would be capable of getting around this would be Kagero. And even then, that's with something of old school Overlord, or Overlord the Rebirth, or Overlord's Break Ride. And even then, that requires you to have other units. I do believe that every deck, in order to stand up the Vanguard again, either requires other units or paying some sort of cost in order to restand it. Which, since all you have is your Vanguard, all you have to do is keep using Paldinium, or however you say that name. I'll just call it Taboo Star-Vader, that's probably a lot easier. It essentially means just guarding with Taboo and all the other cards in your hand, because you have an infinite supply of cards because you've been stacking up your hand this entire game. Because Omega, surprisingly, with 12 draws, you're going to get a lot of draws in your hand. So really, your opponent gets a few turns in order to get a lot of damage on you, but if they can't get you to 6 damage before you hit grade 3, essentially you have then 1 turn to kill him, and if you have the reverse polarity guard and they have no way to restand their Vanguard, you win. That's all there is to it. I may be awful for playing this deck, but by God, I love this deck. I really do. I put a lot of effort into making it, and it was very much worth it. When I pulled this guy, I realized, you know, I should make this deck. And I'm glad I did. Because it's a fun deck that you can play every once in a while. It's definitely not something that you should play against your opponents constantly, because it will jam up, people will get tired of it, and you'll just be seen as an asshole for playing it all the time. So I play it on occasions, and when I do, I have a blast. I really do. Even if I get grade locked and lose, I still have a blast knowing I'm playing such a weird deck that runs 18 grade 3s. Because apparently that's okay. So, anyway, this has been Solomon Pleasant, and this has been my World End deck profile of Star-Vader, Honey Nut, Omega Glendios. So, this is Solomon Pleasant, and Worldo! Time has stopped.